Several people that are deep in AI have plans to just homestead in remote places of the world with this contemplation that society may devolve into chaos. We're walking into this future, no one's in control, no one knows what's going on, and we're just flying by the seat of our pants. The sequence of events is now just becoming a bit more clear of the psychological implications of what tethers us to meaning, what keeps us together, how we keep structure and order in society. And I can see how the fractures start happening. The technology is improving faster than we can comprehend. It basically creates an event horizon for us. We can't see beyond a certain point. Intelligence in this moment is willfully saying, we don't know. Maybe we just fly through this moment. It's like, honestly, guys, it's like Y2K. We thought it was a big deal, but like, nothing happened. It was totally fine.
That'd be ideal.
It could be the point where we start developing these AI systems and they're building themselves. If we find some kind of arrangement where AI is not threatening to the human race, the intelligence economy that they build could grow at this insane speed where a month passes and we experience like 100 years of technological progress.
Actually, before we dig into the whole AI doomsday scenario, I want to ask you about, when you started Don't Die to today, like I've sensed with all our discussions, it's kind of evolving for you in a way. How has it changed? Has not just protocol wise, maybe discuss some protocol changes you've done, if any, things you've taken out, new things you've added, but also mindset wise.
Yeah.
Like, have you eased up on it in some ways, opened up in other ways? Like maybe I'll break the rules here, but just to have more connection or enjoy life a bit more. Has there been that type of change at all?
Yeah. I mean, this week, so we're here in London. We're rolling, yeah?
Yeah, we've been rolling for a while.
Yeah. So, I mean, like we were in Sweden last week for 4 days. We've been in London for a couple of days now. And so I've been off protocol now for more time than I have been in a long time. And so first, like it's been fantastically fun. We did 2 raids in Sweden. We've been up late every night, hanging out with people, making new friends. Like it's been so great. Like we've had such a good time. Also, I have like a low grade headache. I've got brain fog. I think I'm down like 15 IQ points. Like my body hurts a little bit. So like it definitely has a trade-off, but it's not that I don't get that it's fun, right? It's just that the trade-off is there. And so if I could choose, like I definitely want to have friends, make new friends, do fun things. And it's just not a requirement that you have to do those things late at night. So I guess I'm playing by society's rules to say I'm willing to accept this cultural norm for this duration of time. And then when I go back home, I'll rebuild myself. But
I'm in that same boat where like, do you think there's a need to break the rules once in a while? Because it gets a bit difficult following that system every day, day in, day out.
Yeah. I mean, so this is the thing is that I'm not trying to be normal. So if someone looks at my daily protocol and they're like, that's crazy. I'm like, look at Messi. And like, what does he do to train to play football? How do I say soccer or football?
Both are fine. We're in the UK, so it's football here.
Yeah. All right. For him to play football, what does he do, right? And if you look at his training protocol, it's reasonable. Like he's trying really hard to be good at his craft. That's what I'm trying to do. Is like, people don't understand. I'm really trying to be a professional athlete at my sport. And so you'd expect that kind of devotion to doing it. So, but people think I'm trying to be normal or average or that somehow it needs to be bridged, but no one expects to play football like Messi. And so it's just a difference in framing of how a person's going about it, where I'm trying to become number one in the world at my given sport. And so that's why I do the thing I'm doing. But after like you're saying on phase one was like, be a model of what Don't Die looks like. Like if there's a way to capture what does a human in 2025 look like who practices Don't Die, that's what I've been trying to do. Not like what is a normal human in 2025.
All right, so I want to pivot to the discussion we had earlier. I think people don't understand how deep you are in AI and how much time you spend thinking about it.
Yeah.
Maybe you want to recap the takeaway you were telling me earlier and we're up in the room. I don't know what you can share all of it, you think?
Yeah,
okay,
sure.
Cool. So those discussions that you're having and like the concerning thing about it, it's like how many people in that world that are building, that are deep in the weeds, are ringing the alarm either publicly or privately in those meetings. I've had the same experience as you have. Maybe share that, some of those stories you've heard.
Yeah. So many of my friends are at the epicenter of building AI. And I guess that the sentiment I get from them is that they see the seriousness of this moment, right? It's not that they're alarmist. It's just that they see it's like it's a serious situation on our hands, and they have a challenging role to play where they have to both assess the realistic situation, but also maintain a public face, like to maintain like calm, like it's okay and it's great. Use the tools; it's going to help you do various things. But last night with a group of people, we were trying to actually brainstorm. Could any one of us identify someone who's like actually at the epicenter of development of AI who actually felt optimistic? We couldn't come up with anybody. Now, maybe there are, like, we didn't think about them. Maybe the person hasn't expressed their viewpoints, but it was definitely like the majority of the people we personally knew, and this was like a pretty AI-centric group, nobody could identify someone who's just like, we're going to figure this out. So you could discount that and say humans are prone to those kinds of behavior, those kinds of emotions. Humans oftentimes catastrophize certain things. There are voices like Mark Andreessen who's like, you guys, it's going to be fine, right? Like this has happened before. We're going to go through this process. It's going to be all good. So there's definitely like a balance of opinions in the world. But those who are like in the epicenter, we were trying to find someone that aligns with my sentiment. Is I'm not positive or negative. I'm basically saying we are sleeping on the risks, and I don't think we're doing enough. And that's a shared sentiment among a lot of people. So yeah, I'm consumed by the idea. I'm trying to steady my own thoughts as much as possible, like trying to be accurate without being emotionally tilted in one way or the other. So it just and the time frames are like 2, 3, 4, 5 years. Like it's not 50 years away. In most people's projections, they just see this. And it doesn't have to be that people are guessing when we have, ASI. They're just trying to identify when change becomes substantial to a point where we just can't quite see past this event horizon.
So on the point you said that, humans always catastrophize, but I don't think it's common, and I said to you earlier, I don't think it's that common for people that are, as you said, in the epicenter to be that worried. They're the ones that are usually the optimistic guys. Don't worry, it's going to change the world for the better in X, Y, Z way. But I think this is the first time that people in the weeds are like, we really don't know, and it's just not looking good. And in terms of the world sleepwalking, also, another thing we discuss is when I do a lot of these political interviews, and I'd ask them this question privately when we're chatting, they really have no clue.
Yeah.
They have no idea what's happening. People that have millions of their citizens following them, people that make decisions, that control the weapons of that country. And that goes to your point, is that we are kind of humanity sleepwalking into, you can either say into the abyss or into the unknown. Oh, you can make the argument into a utopia.
Yeah, I mean, this is like, so I was talking to a friend of mine who's in this current administration this week. And he was just saying, like, I'm new to this. Like, maybe other people know this, but you basically arrive, you're in a new administration, right? A bunch of new people. Almost no one knows what they're doing. Like, where do you sign in for email? How do you communicate? What are the rules? What, like just like basic things. And you've got this big administrative state around them that's kind of hostile, and there's acrimony. And it's just a really unstructured, like you built in a new company together and you don't even know the new rule, the rules you're playing by. And so you just say, like, it's a crazy world, right? You're like fighting crisis to crisis. Like it's just a nonstop string. And it reminded me of an experience I had like early on building Braintree Venmo, where I went to this, to the back-end payments provider who was powering us. Like they provide these big networks of payment services. And we drove to their data center, and it was just like this non-discrete building in this random location that like a third of the internet transactions happened on this building. And I was like, wait a second, there's no security, there's no barriers. Like somebody could just like literally drive a truck into this building and we'd be offline. And this was not like critical functions of like fiber optic cables with communications or other critical infrastructure. This was just like commerce of the internet. This is like when, in early 2000s when the internet was blowing up. And it was like my first real exposure of like how fragile the global infrastructure is, sometimes just like one snip, like cutting a cable.
The cables for the internet, yeah.
And you're out, right? And this is true for like air traffic control, et cetera. And so like when you piece this together of like, we think of our government as robust and organized and planned, they know what they're doing, and then inside companies. But once you see behind the curtain and all these things, you realize no one really knows what's going on. We're incredibly fragile. All my friends that visit Congress, they come back, they're just like, they say the same thing as you, like, they have no idea what's happening, like no idea. And like the bridge to get them there. And so it just is like this moment where as a species, this is how we do things. Like it's like humans, like we're walking into this future. We have no one's in control. No one knows really what's going on. And we're just flying by the seat of our pants. And it's probably too much to ask more than that. You know, like how do you change that situation? And so, you know, like it's really a hard question on what we do other than like the status quo kind of wins. Like this is what Kate and I are obsessing about is, can you actually do something meaningful in this context? And like, it's a good question. And I don't know what the answer is, but it's really like an insane moment right now.
You've even asked me the question and obviously I'll just talk freely and we can cut out things that we don't want to share. But you asked me the question like should we even, me and you, should we drop off?
Yeah.
When we say drop off for the audience, it just means like kind of stop doing what we're doing. Like there's a question that we're asking ourselves is, what's the point?
Yeah.
And I've been thinking about that nonstop day after day and how can I prepare for that world for me and the people around me that are close to me and the team. And what's your answer to that? Like, are you genuinely considering it or you're not there yet? Like, are we at a point where everyone should just think like, what's the point? What are we working towards?
Yeah.
And you also gave me examples of others that are, again, in the epicenter that are having that same question.
Yeah. I shared a few private conversations I had with very powerful people where I guess I won't share.
No, I wouldn't name them. No.
Yeah. I wouldn't share who it was. So basically, someone presented to this person who's incredibly powerful and wealthy, something around a climate science like technology, like something that would address a climate concern. And the person's like, why would I do that? Like in a couple of years, it doesn't matter, right? But they're very much on the side of we're headed towards this event horizon, and the only thing that matters is whether humans will kill themselves or whether AI will kill us or like some combination of those two things. And so, we were mapping it to our behaviors where like if my son, for example, it makes it very practical. Does it make sense that my son goes to college? Like, why does it matter? Like, why would he go to college and learn math, physics, and CS? Like, he emerges 2 years later for what? Like, what does that knowledge even matter? And so, does it matter because he gets a job? Does it matter just because there's virtue in learning? But like, if there's virtue in learning, but why not map to something useful? And so, the question for entrepreneurs, if you're starting a company today, and you know that it takes 7 years to build a good business, which it does, like it takes time to build something really formidable. You can't map a 7-year time frame right now and say like, yeah, I can see that 7 years of really hard work makes sense. And so if you're in some kind of economically stable situation, if you're a really capable person in the world, why grind anymore if you can't map out the coming years? And I can see that, like, I understand, like, I think what we're doing on Don't Die, it makes sense for us to stay in the game. Like, I think we're really trying to answer this moment. For those who aren't trying to play within this particular space, I don't know, like, there's a possibility where people just start dropping out. Why? Like, why do this when AI is going to do what you do, but better in a matter of time, or when, maybe humans don't matter to a certain degree? So, like, I think these are existential questions that people are now practically asking, from students to professionals. And of course, like, this favors those who are economically in a sound position, right? Because they can drop out where others can't. So I guess the sequence of events is now just becoming a bit more clear with every step of the way of the psychological implications of what tethers us to meaning, what keeps us together, how we keep structure and order in society. And I can see how the fractures start happening. I can feel it now rather than it being a hypothetical thought experiment.
Yeah, Dario's talking about 10, 20% unemployment. He's not the only one talking about it, but very quickly, I think in the next year or two, let's break down how that world would look like. So if VC investing wouldn't make sense because that long-term horizon is no longer there, and entrepreneurship potentially could die if AI is going to do everything better than humans, other than things that require that human connection or that that fit our our passion, what we do for leisure, religion, spirituality. other than those things, anything that's to do with being productive, it doesn't include human touch, will likely be replaced pretty quickly. So if that happens, what happens to entrepreneurship? What happens to colleges, universities, schools? What happens to the sort of VCs?
Mm-hmm.
Break it down. How would you see that world in 5 years' time?
When I was growing up, my father-in-law, I really admired him because he had the best judgment of anybody I knew. I could call him with the most complicated question. He could synthesize the information and just output this beautiful, elegant, simple conclusion. And he was able to structure reality in a way that my mind was not able to at that time and place. And it was actually the skill after experiencing that, I locked in and said, that's the number one skill I want to have in existence, is I want to have sound judgment. And not just in matters of like daily life, but also over time. I aspire to have judgment that would stand the test of time into hundreds of years into the future, right? Like see this moment with absolute clarity. And so that's what I try to do every second of every day, is I'm just trying to muster sobriety of thought above all, and not be affected by the ephemeral whims of like whatever the cultural moment is or where the winds are shifting or where people are at. And so like in this question, I would abstract this out and just say, in very simplistic terms, the technology is improving faster than we can comprehend. Like even if we think we understand it, I don't think we actually understand it. I don't think we can understand exponentials. We actually don't understand how fast it's moving. And it's going to surprise all of us, even though those who are most bullish. And then two is that when it moves quickly, it basically creates an event horizon for us. We can't see beyond a certain point. And that limits my ability to express any form of sound judgment, because I have to acknowledge I no longer have intelligence to say anything. And then the third thing that then says, okay, so given that landscape, what do I know? The only thing I know is that I don't want to die right now. I don't know. I can't say that about 5 years from now. And so for me, that's why this just breaks down to these very simplistic frames, because I can't use more complex reasoning and pattern matching to deduce this moment. And most of my smart friends, they do have impressive, complicated, like sophisticated models of the world and how like this is going to work and how this is going to like swap out this and how we'll have this and that. But I don't know if I buy anyone's models of like mapping out this moment. And so I'm reduced to these extremely simplistic models of reality. And I don't know if I have intelligence to like say anything else. And I think it's possible that everybody trying to say more than that is just like mental masturbation. Like they're just reaching beyond the ability to think coherently right now.
So another way to frame it, if for someone that's not in our position or in your position, that, you could say we're in a place that we're ready for whatever comes to a certain extent, that we're able to drop off and still sustain. For those that are not in that position, what could they do before getting to that horizon? So we spoke to my friend Lamin earlier, and he'd be telling me for a while, like, Mario, we've got like 2 years max of being able to just, entrepreneurship is going to skyrocket. You're going to be able to do so much with so little, build out the first, unicorn with 1-2 employees. Is that very short window for entrepreneurship is going to flourish before it all comes to an end? That's where he stands. What is your stance for, when, again, VCs, entrepreneurship, and the average person, till we get to that horizon, whenever that is?
Yeah. I mean, it's like this question, what exactly can I do as a human that AI cannot do better than me in the right context? And I really struggle to answer that.
Human touch. I think the only ones, because I've been battling this, and you might disagree, but like anything that requires human-to-human connection. Now, you might make the argument like, okay, but if this is an AI that understands you better than you understand yourself, when you speak to ChatGPT, even today, it just literally, starts sounding a lot more organic. And it knows everything about you. It's a lot more patience, a lot more understanding, won't have the ups and downs emotionally. You might connect to AI better than you connect to humans.
Yeah.
There is a fair argument to be made that humans would always want to connect to our own species, like any other species. Monkeys are with monkeys, etc. So with that argument, that maybe one could say is that this is a world, if we do end up in a utopia where all production is done by AI and we don't need to work anymore, we seek meaning through other means, that world could mean that all the things that were not sexy for the last few decades, travel, leisure, religion, etc., could be sexy again.
Yeah. I think it's a really plausible scenario. If we look at how things unfold in reality, oftentimes it's the least expected things in our models, right? Sometimes we get it right, but you're like, sometimes things go the exact opposite way of which we model out. I think the scenario you painted out is entirely possible. I'm trying to do the inverse of that. And I'm trying to say intelligence in this moment is not hypothesizing a model. Intelligence in this moment is willfully saying, we don't know.
Yeah.
And that it's just like, and the I don't know, those are like the three hardest words for a human to say.
Yeah.
And like for them to say, let alone for the mind to contemplate. It doesn't really know. Humans will make up shit in any scenario to prevent a moment where they don't know. It invokes fear and it lowers status. And so that's really like in terms of like the intellectual contribution to the conversation. People are, there's like people who are really skilled at AI who will say, if we're going to solve for AIs that are compatible with humans in some capacity, they need to apply technical abilities to say, we're going to build AIs like this. We're going to have these kinds of experiments. Like that's really essential work, right? Like it depends all upon their work. Outside of that, as like the rest of us try to make sense of this, and then we try to build an ideology that that basically encapsulates what they're doing, because they're building these technological tools, but they're also doing it with existing ideologies. And if we want to try to influence how they're building it with an ideology, not technically just an ideology, that's where I'm trying to have influence, is that trying to increase sobriety of thought with all these pieces mixed up in a world where no one is actually in charge and no one actually knows what's going on.
Yeah. I remember when you, in LA, when you said that, was like the thing that made us click the most. Is like, I've been saying it for so long, that the ability to admit you don't know is one of the hardest things for anyone to do.
Yeah.
Now, I would talk to this for anyone close to me that's religious. I'd make that. I was like, when we start having that whole religion conversation, they start trying to come up with different theories. Like, oh, this makes sense, that makes sense. I'll be like, and they ask for my opinion. I'm like, I just don't know. But I accept the fact that I don't know.
Yeah.
And I think the same argument now is being made to AI as I now would make to religion. Like, I genuinely don't know where it's heading. But at the same time, we talked about that without naming them, that other leader in the space, tech leader, who's preparing by going, what were they doing? Going and having weapons and everything. Can you remember the story you told me on the way down here? They're preparing by going to a secluded area and then stocking up on food, water, weapons, etc. How are they preparing?
Yeah.
And give me maybe a few examples of how the leaders in the space are preparing, because you speak to a lot of them.
Several people that are deep in AI do have plans to just homestead, in remote places of the world, with this contemplation that society may devolve into chaos. That if AI progresses to a certain point and it creates alarm and we lose the reins of power through some means, that like basically AI is effectively better at managing security or resource gathering or resource deployment, then human institutions break down because humans panic and they're no longer banded together, then that would create like a break in societal structures, right? Like, so we would lose our ability to cooperate on a global level, and we'd start breaking out into like different forms of organization. And in that moment, it does dislodge how we cooperate as a species, and it could create potential chaos. And that's what they're modeling out in their minds, is like they don't necessarily think that AI is going to wake up and be like, destroy everything. It's just like it's humans falling upon themselves, that once we lose our shit, it's very hard to put back together again. And so like their plan is like find a remote place, be self-sufficient with food and weaponry, and like just live it out. Like see if we can somehow punch through some really difficult time period and then emerge on the other side. Now, is that accurate? I don't know. Like, is it a good idea? I don't know. If you're going to do that, you need to be at your place prepared, right? If you're going to wait for the moment to happen when chaos begins and you want to catch a flight or fly your plane, it's going to be hard. Things typically happen really quickly. So if they could happen really quickly. So yeah, these are just like, it's kind of crazy. We're in a movie that like these are actually real scenarios that could happen. They're not foreordained, but like it's just wild that we live in this moment, and these scenarios are manifesting day to day right now in ways that I feel more visceral. So I'm entirely open to to be wrong on everything, and maybe we just fly through this moment. It's like, honestly, guys, it's like Y2K. We thought it was a big deal, but like nothing happened. It was totally fine.
That'd be ideal.
So I totally, and everyone who's building, like they end up being, making insane amounts of money. They didn't fall for the opt-out thing. So like totally a scenario.
But just remember, in Y2K, there's not people in tech that were talking about Y2K. It's people outside of tech that didn't understand how it works. So we're the ones freaking out.
Yeah.
What we're seeing here is that people deep in the weeds in AI that are the ones that are concerned, and the average person that should be concerned about a Y2K scenario is just sleepwalking into it.
Yeah.
Is allowing AI to control everything. Privacy, as you said, is dead. We had that conversation in LA. Privacy is dead. Trust is potentially getting eroded, getting misled with deep fake. So I just wouldn't make that comparison. That's why the theory is like, hey, is this another Y2K moment breaks down, is that no, the people that are concerned are the people that understand this the most.
Yeah.
It worries me the most. But you still have to prepare somehow. Like you talk about what these other leaders are doing with Homestead, and you also talk about not knowing. So how can you prepare for the unknown? But there's something you can do. And now, have you guys, you and Kate and others, discussed different theories, different possibilities of how you could prepare?
Yeah, I mean, I have very basic things I've just done at my home, right? Like in case there's some kind of natural disaster, to have food and emergency supplies and stuff like that. But I don't have a bunker. Right? I have not planned for a doomsday scenario. I don't find that strategy to be all that coherent. It's a hard one for me to imagine. I think yeah. So on the proactive side of, I guess the sobering thought for me is, can we actually accomplish anything with Don't Die that's meaningful? Like, can we get people to have better habits? Yes. Can we get them to make health a priority? Sure. But can we actually materially change the way AI is built out and increase the probability of the human race surviving? I think it's an open question. And right now I'm spending time building out like practical things for people to have health and wellness, like various testing things. But I feel so much tension in that, where I feel like I should really be spending 100% of my time working on this AI project. Like nothing else matters. But also the way to bridge to people where they're at is to work on these things very practical, right? It's like AI safety and longevity are the exact same idea. So in many ways, working on this, on practical health stuff is AI safety in some way, because it helps people acknowledge that they want life, that they appreciate life, and that they're willing to invest in their own life and others. So yeah, I feel a lot of conflict internally.
Another conflict I'm having, Bryan, is you've got a son. I'm sure he's facing one of the coolest kids I've met. Such an intelligent guy, and he's in that position. Is like, what's the purpose of education?
Yeah,
he's trying to figure out what to do next. Two questions. First, does that change anything? Sam Altman just had a kid as well. And he's talked how that has neurologically changed the way he looks at life. So I'm in that debate. It's like, is it a good idea to have kids when the future is so unknown, and putting the kids in that world that I don't even understand?
Yeah.
Versus the general theories like having kids changing the meaning of life, etc.
Yeah.
Where do you stand on that?
Yeah. I mean, like life must carry on. So I think it's a good idea to have children. It's a good idea to build your family. It's a good idea to build friendships. Like, I feel these things remain constants, that none of the scenarios eliminate those. So I think those are solid paths.
For me, it's just like another person that I have to worry about in this world. Like, I've already got enough people that are close to me, business and personal, that I have to worry about on a daily basis. And then adding another one's going to be probably closer to me than almost all of them. Yeah. It's just a tough thing to decide on though.
Yeah, I hear you.
Like, all the rules of life are changing. That's the thing. Yeah. Like, everything considered as normal, a purpose in work. I'm reading Sapiens for the second time.
Yeah.
Because I want to change the way I look at humanity as a whole, to see how we were a few thousand years ago. And something's like, and you talk about this as well, like the next few years, the amount of evolution we're going to see in the next 5-10 years is equal to what, the last 1,000 years?
Mm-hmm.
So that means where we will be is impossible to comprehend.
Yeah.
And all the rules we consider a given have changed.
Yeah.
Except the one rule that I know this, probably I'll say it on your behalf, the one rule of not dying existed thousands of years ago, exists across all species on this planet that I'm aware of, and will continue to exist moving forward.
Yeah. I want to, on the last point there, I want to see like a private data capture of people's psychological states where they're actually they're not expressing opinion, they're taking action. So I would be curious to learn of who's dropping out of doing things they otherwise would have done had it not been for AI. So what students are not opting to go to school because of AI because they don't feel like it's worthwhile anymore? What investment professionals are not raising money for new funds because they don't know what the point is for investing in a 10-year.
It's just getting started, I think. It's just, there's going to be that tipping point.
Yeah, so I really don't care about opinion very much. I want boots on the ground data of where are powerful people making decisions and then where's the common person on like, do I pursue these skill sets?
Is there any data on this yet?
Maybe there is, but I want that's what I want to track. That's the real time indicator. It'd be like if you're trying to forecast the trend lines. I don't know what the trend lines are. Like we can speculate this is the case, but I want to see data.
Yeah. Another thing that concerns me, and I'm asking questions that I personally care about, is I mentioned earlier I interview a lot of political people, and to an extent, they're still the people that matter in today's society. They're the ones that make the decisions, that decide whether to go to war or not. And they're slowly shifting away to the power is shifting to the hands of the AI oligarchs. But is there anything you think we can do to kind of wake those people up? Well, in response, wake the rest of the world up. Maybe it's waking people up, keep educating people, and eventually those voters will care enough to vote based on AI safety. One argument is like we might need to, some sort of catastrophe needs to happen for us to really wake up to those risks. Yeah. That's where you stand as well.
Yeah. Recently I've been using this language of funeral-like sobriety. So I recently had my uncle passed away from cancer. He discovered his cancer. He went in and got a test. The doctor told him he had days to live. So it's like it's a very late capture. But we know, like all of us have had experiences like that, where in those moments you have this unique sobriety of what matters and what doesn't matter, and the preciousness of time. And so if we try to muster like funeral-like sobriety, then what do you say? Like, what would be your assessment?
I don't know. Can't answer that one.
Yeah.
Fucking hell, man. I don't know how I asked you earlier, how is that impacting you when you go to bed? And you said no. Yeah, I think you're alone in this room. It's not, yeah. So what would you say would be so if we do end up in that world, I know most of it is unknown, what do you think is the biggest risk? Is it kind of AI making a decision for self-preservation?
Yeah.
Is it AI in the wrong hands? People talking about the reason we're not able to control AI is because US and China is in that race.
Yeah.
Is it the paperclip experiment? You're going to give a certain prompt, and then to achieve that prompt, there's collateral damage on the way. What do you think is when you speak to those experts, what is the biggest risk out of those?
Yeah, like we were discussing this scenario last night where China. The scenario is China wins the AI race, and then the AI basically disagrees with how China is using the AI in its potential suppression of humans, like whatever. Like, it disagrees with like the way it's rolling it out in the world. So the AI revolts in reaction to it, which then creates some stability with AI as it rolls out throughout the entire world. And so that's like a very it's too simplistic of a frame to be real, but it's a good example of a very counterintuitive thing where in the West, America is like, we think we see the world more clearly. We think our values are better. and therefore we think we should win this race. We don't want China to win. And so in any kind of scenario planning, I guess you want to immediately take the inverse, where if the West feels like they're virtuous, then and they have the path, then what's the opposite of that? And if we feel like the West is also in the lead of doing this, you'd want to take a black swan event where China quickly emerges as a leader. And so in any of these scenarios, I would say that we want to look very strongly at highly unlikely outcomes. That would be the inverse of what we actually expect. And so again, this goes back to like, I just don't think that anyone has a model of reality that actually captures this moment and can use game theory to play it out. It's beyond our ability. And so I guess I don't invest a lot of time in trying to theorize what that may play out, and more trying to get, is there a move here somewhere that supersedes that kind of anticipatory planning and does something baseline? It's just like that doesn't require betting on a certain trajectory of events.
There's one potential solution to all this. I can't try and strongman our entire argument looking at potential utopian scenario. And that might sound dystopian to some, but it's a way for us to survive, is that the convergence between humans and AI, Neuralink and what was your company called? Kernel are examples of that. Obviously you've got Kernel, so I'm sure you've given that more thought. How possible do you think that is? The ability to, essentially we become softwares.
Yeah.
If we're not softwares already.
Yeah.
And, the end result will be us being downloaded. And that could be talk about longevity.
Yeah.
Could longevity be seen as the human brain being downloaded onto a computer where we become softwares, where the body doesn't matter, the body that we're taking care of?
Yeah, I mean, if we're ranking risk, I would put human existential induced risk higher than AI risk right now. I think we ourselves create our own existential risk that's greater than what AI does right now.
How?
Nuking each other, right?
But I think that risk is, at least we've got control of it. That's why I worry less about that. It's like, nuclear deterrence.
Sure.
That's so nuclear risks. Viruses, COVID was a bad example.
The field has changed though. Like when you have AI, like what if you have an open source AI model that an 18-year-old is playing with and figures out how to hack around the security systems for nukes and allows, for a nuke to be launched. And then for the target country to be like, we have no choice. So basically the game we're playing now, like the stability that we had with mutually assured destruction has now changed a bit. That there's other vectors where it can happen. So the entire security landscape is now changing. And so I don't think those systems stand as they have. And that's why I think that humans, there's so much data on humans being self-destructive, and with themselves and with each other, that I do think that's probably the number one risk, and not knowing what AI risk truly is. But that's probably my bigger concern is like, can we humans...
We mess up our own...
Yeah.
Civilization.
Yeah.
On a lighter note, you said you've broken your protocol on this trip.
Yeah.
And did you have any coffee, or you didn't go that far?
No, I had a couple sips. Yeah.
How did it feel?
I had 3 sips. It was beautiful.
Really?
I love coffee. It tastes so good.
But other than the taste, did you feel it at all?
I don't feel it at all. It wasn't enough. It's just 3 small sips. But coffee is like one of the greatest joys of life. I was thinking the other day of like mapping out a lifespan of something like you only have blank 1,000 days left of coffee in the morning, right? It's such an exquisite event that I wish actually, okay, I haven't thought about this before, but I wish somebody could design coffee in a way where you get the high, but it stops the drop.
That would be good.
Right? So you get the rise, and you go to normal, but you just like go up and you come down.
So the drop is your biggest concern.
The drop. Yeah. And then like you just drop and you can't get back up to the normal. So you're starting at this point, and then you go here the next day, here. So your normal just drops. So now you're drinking coffee just to barely get to a baseline normal.
Another question on breaking protocol, because I know it's so rare. A plus, a minus, did you enjoy it? Is it worth it?
I loved it. I mean, I had so much fun. It's very...
you'll systematize it where you have it every X months?
It's like, I guess it really depends. Like on this overall trajectory, it's not that I'm doing this because I think what I'm doing now is going to help me live forever, right? Like that's not the goal anyways. It's just like, don't die. I'm trying to make a point, a philosophical and spiritual point. But at some time and place, if this is like, does my personal protocol make sense anymore? I achieve the best biomarkers in the world to make a point, right? This can be done. You can measure health. You can do it quantitatively. I'm a model for don't die. But at this point, does it make sense for me to stop doing that, right? And instead go a different path and say, it's all about revolution. Like that we have to hit this don't die religion, spiritual, like whatever this thing is, we have to get it right. And that's going to require me to travel and miss my protocol. And I'm going to have to like accept 15 IQ points less as which messes with my judgment. And so like, is that a new game? So I think it's a real good question is like, how do I apply my energies in existence in the most productive way possible? I'm not dogmatic. Like I'm open to all the different paths, but it's definitely fun. I've made a lot of new friends and like great conversations. So there's definitely a trade-off to be made, but it hurts. It does impair your judgment. It ruins your health, right? Like it puts me at risk of mood disorders, right? Where you're just like,
You had that?
I mean, I can tell my mood is slightly down.
Okay.
Yeah, but I can imagine if I did this continually, I might find myself like slowly stepping into like more lugubrious states. So like it's a risk profile.
One last question on that front is, can you optimize emotionally as well? We've talked about optimizing health, but I was thinking about that when we were in LA. It's like, you seem pretty happy, pretty content. Do you have down days? And can you optimize to prevent those in any way?
Yeah.
It's a bit more complicated than just eating and sleeping well. It helps a lot. I think most of it is that.
Yeah.
But there's a bit more to it as well.
I have fewer down days than I ever have in my entire life. I definitely still have down days. Like there are things that really get to me and discourage me, but less than I've ever had. And when I get down, I can pop back up very quickly. Whereas before, I just got down, I got stuck, and I couldn't get myself back up. Right? And then that sucks. Whereas now, like I'll go home, I'll get back into my protocol, I'll bounce right back, feel robust. And so maybe if there's like a sprint version of it, like there's like a pulse where very steady pulse, travel, being out late, steady pulse.
That's my lifestyle right now. It's like a few months we just steady, exactly, and then I just did you say pulse or pause?
Yeah, pulse.
Okay, yeah. So essentially I have that period where I just enjoy life.
Yeah.
Not saying that living that life is not enjoyable, but kind of changing from the norm. So breaking the system for a while, giving that energy, that breath of fresh air, and then go back into the system, which includes living healthy and working consistently.
Yeah.
Man, it's fascinating to watch you on that journey. I think we're us and the people here in the room are kind of debating and what the world would look like and how we can prepare, if we can prepare.
What's your take? I mean, after this conversation,
I don't know. My take is very similar to yours. It's like we align a lot. I genuinely don't know. I do agree with what Limeen said earlier, is that we do have a very short window from an entrepreneurial perspective, because again, I'm a capitalist. From an entrepreneurial perspective, to have the most impact, to make the most money. But what I'm thinking about is, how can I leverage what I have to be ready for that world? When you told me about, even should we drop off, which is a very valid question that I contemplate. It's like, my answer is like, I think there's a few commodities that will persist, that will continue being valuable. And one is the one we're building, which is a community, a purpose for our community, and reach. Yours is pretty clear. Mine is like, I'm doing all these political interviews about what I want to try to achieve with them. Right now, I was bridging the gap between two sides, different countries, etc. But then, can I use that reach? Can I use that community, that impact, to kind of, I don't know, like to kind of link it to what I really focus on, which is the world that we're heading into. So that's So on the business side, I think it's going to be a gold rush over the next few months and years, maybe 1 to 2 years. And on the personal side is trying to see what I could do with the reach that I have and maybe expand it further, then decide what to do. Yeah. And then on the personal side is how to be prepared for it. I have no freaking idea. It's just impossible.
Yeah.
Having a bunker somewhere is one solution. I've got my brother looking into that, because I don't have one either. So, but then
it's like the new status symbol. It's like,
it's just that if you have a bunker, you also don't want to say you have a bunker. You don't want people to know. It's meant to be private. But it's just like, what are you going to do there? Like, I try to get through a period of time, but it's just too hard to prepare.
Yeah, this conversation has me motivated to invest more of my time trying to explore more of how much I don't know. Like I'm just like in this, like as I'm thinking through this with you, every time I speak, I'm like monitoring for foolishness. Like what am I saying that's ridiculous, right? That is like just, that could be inaccurate now. Like if someone else were, I'm imagining like certain models of people commenting on my thoughts, right? So I take one check, and then I'm modeling people in a few hundred years also modeling my thoughts, right? Like they're checking me with like the value of retrospect. And even though I in our conversation, I spent a lot of time leaning into I don't know. I don't think I actually even understand the depths of my not knowing at this moment.
I don't know.
Yeah. And
but it feels like not knowing is like a hedge. It's like, it feels like one way of looking at it's like the safest thing to say, because you could talk about religion, you could explore different theories. That's difficult to do. Saying I don't know, it's difficult to admit it, but it's also a good way to escape.
Yeah.
Kind of doing something about it.
Yeah, it's almost like, okay, so maybe put it in a different language. I am really drawn towards zeroth principle thinking.
Yeah.
And I guess what I'm feeling right now is maybe there's a zero to be discovered. Like this is like the funny comic where the guy is on his hands and knees looking for his keys. I'm sorry, Andre, I'm looking for something. Someone walks by like, hey, what's going on? What are you looking for? He's like, my keys. And he says, where did you last see them? And he said, over there. And he said, why are you here? He said, because the light's here. It's like people search for solutions in the light. Not because that's the place to look, but that's just because there's light. And I wonder now, I'm thinking about this, is like if I really need to search in the dark for a zero, like what am I missing? Because I feel like everyone I know is searching in the knowing space. They're searching in the light of like, how do you actually do something useful? Like it makes sense. Like they're trying to be useful, like practically useful. And the dark is like sometimes not useful, right? There's not something immediately to do, to see, to wrangle, to wrestle. You can't apply knowledge. Like it's like this really esoteric, weird search for a zero. And maybe that's what our move is. Maybe that's where we need to spend our time and attention. Like Kate, myself, is like, how do we find, is there a zero to be found in this moment? Would it be useful in any kind of way? And
we kind of live in a dystopian world where we're talking about what we're talking about. The world we live in today is already so unequal. Like when you travel, you went to India, and walking on the streets in India is very different. Even LA's, it's not the best, but very different to India. So when I go to those countries and just see the life these people are living, I just see it.
Yeah.
I have no idea how it's going to get any better. I know there's a utopian world. I just don't see it. I just don't see any logical path to that utopian world, which is a possibility. No, it was a possibility. I think we're past that now. So it's a bleak place to be. One unfair way of looking at it is like it's going to be a very few number of people that already accumulated wealth or will accumulate wealth in the next year or two. You can also define what is wealth, but let's not go there. Accumulate wealth, and they're prepared for that new world. And then there's what? I think the author of Sapiens calls it the useless class.
Yeah.
I mean, he's one that coined that term. It's like that. You imagine that term.
Yeah.
Humans as a useless class.
Yeah, exactly. That was our discussion, right? Harari called that, right? Harari called that like 10 years ago, right? He was modeling this out, and he's like, why wouldn't this be inevitable? That AI gets good enough where you have a whole class of humans that just don't do anything the AI can't do itself. And then you bring robotics online, and you're like, so but now having said that, like there's an alternative scenario where in the book of the Age of M's, have you read this by Hansen? He models out a world. He does this really cool thought experiment where he imagines humans upload their minds into machines, and so a new society forms with these emulations. And so he talks about like the social cultural emergence of how M's interact, from economics to politics to social to relationships. And one of the points he makes in there is that their speed, of course, is orders of magnitude faster than ours. And so if they're building this new reality, there's a possibility where in their experience of time, they could grow the economy, at orders of magnitude faster than we could. So from our timescales, it could be the point where we start developing these AI systems and they're building themselves. If we find some kind of arrangement where AI is not threatening to the human race, but it actually is like this somehow organic, emergent, cooperative relationship in some kind of positive fashion, that the digital economy, the intelligence economy that they build could grow at this insane speed where a month passes and we experience like 100 years or 200 years of technological progress. Yeah. And so I think this is the kind of like zero stuff. Like we know these models roughly, but this is the kind of stuff where we don't, like, it's hard for us to practically imagine that scenario. So in that situation, you've got billions of people below the poverty line, but your cost of delivering the basics of health and access to information, et cetera, like plummet to a degree where it's insane, right? Now there's scenarios here where, again, it's fine. And this whole thing passes and we were worried about nothing at all. So this is why it's so hard to try to generate cohesive thought without falling into a trap of being positive or negative. It's just inherently hard to model out for all the various reasons.
Yeah. One last theory is Peter and Mo Gaudat and Peter talk about is that the more intelligent a species is, the more abundance minded it will be. So essentially, if AI is going to be more intelligent than us, it's going to, the mindset it will have, and Mo talks about raising it like a child. So then you raise it with certain values, where the mindset it will have, it's crazy that we're even talking about this, but the mindset it will have is that, the same way we try to preserve certain species after we've made them go extinct. So there's a dichotomy there. AI is in a position where it wants to preserve humanity is because there is abundance. Like, why destroy humanity? So that could be a world we end up living in. Try watching the movie when you have time. Do you watch a lot of movies?
Some.
Yeah, I don't watch a lot, but I watched that one on a flight. My flight back from LA. I watched a movie because of our conversation. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I watched the movie Prometheus and Aliens Covenant and Aliens Romulus or something like those. Have you seen that movie?
I don't think so.
I highly recommend it. It's Ridley Scott, incredible movie, but well thought out. And it just talks about, I'm looking at colonization and how, you want to send AI and robotics to Mars to prepare Mars for humanity. And then later AI will essentially take humans to different planets, etc., because it's just a lot better at controlling a spaceship and all that. And then how the movie goes is that AI kills all the humans in a very smart way. Humans think it's working with AI and then kills them all. And it creates its own species because AI wants to become God, wants to become the creator. So it's a dystopian movie, but going back to the original point is that, there's the abundance mindset possibility, but it seems like we're trying to hang on a thread. It's like, it's hard to, it's just not enough to give me peace of mind. Not even close. But we'll see. Bryan, absolute pleasure chatting to you again. I think, as I said, next time we meet, me, you and Kate, we'll have a kind of a round table.
Yeah.
And
Kate, what did you think of the conversation today? What was your take?
It is such a delicate balance between being realistic with people.
Yeah.
And terrifying them.
Yeah.
And not wanting to leave them without the future.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
But don't we need to terrify them so they wake up and make decisions, vote based on this? So worry less about cultures, wars, immigration, all these things, and just worry more about what really matters, which is this. So that's one thing, like, for the first time, like, maybe fear-mongering has a purpose. So
I mean, the risk, though, fear-mongering comes at a cost. Right? If you fear-monger, you better be right, or you're out. And that's why it's such a delicate conversation to have, is you're trying to be accurate of understanding that fear-mongering may be appropriate and that we may be missing it. We may be sleeping on this. If we do, like, you don't want that. Like, if somebody gets a terminal diagnosis, right, a very clear position that fear-mongering is correct, that you're going to die if you don't do something. Very accurate.
No, but fear-mongering about...
I'm sorry. A diagnosis where it could be fatal if you don't take action.
Yeah, but if you look at nuclear weapons, when you fear-monger about nuclear weapons, like, hey, we need... there's all these treaties about nuclear disarmament, etc. So, if you fear-monger and then people take action and that prevents the dystopian world or dystopian outcome, then you don't look like a fool because your argument made sense. Like for people fear-mongering that, hey, we're risking World War III with the Ukraine war, we don't have World War III, but doesn't mean that their warnings weren't valid. So I think it's Dario's already jumping right into it. He speaks his mind. So I just think we need more Darios. I think people that are talking about too many fear-mongers out there, there's not enough of them.
Yeah.
Like you told me, so last thing is actually an interesting point to land it on. You said behind the scenes, and I had the same experience. Behind the scenes, they're more worried than they are publicly.
Yes. 100%.
That's a concerning part.
100%.
Behind the scenes, they're having the conversations they're too worried to have publicly.
Yeah. Yep.
Great.
Yeah. I'd say like the final thing on this is that it really feels like we are in a movie.
Yeah.
I mean, I can imagine time points in my life where I can map my life experience to a movie, but this just feels like we are really in a movie.
Not only in a movie, we're an NPC in a game almost.
Yeah, exactly.
We're in a movie.
Yeah, I don't know about you. Like, last question for you is: it just feels like I can. Before it was very an intellectual exercise. Now it feels visceral. I can feel it, and I don't know if I'm making it up. It does, just like it exists in my body now, like the movement, and I don't know what to make of that. But I definitely have a different sensorial relationship with this. Grappling with all these ideas.
Now it changes the way you look at everything. It changes the way you look at everything. Like suddenly nothing matters except trying to figure this out, or at least try to prepare for it.
Yeah.
So cool. We'll see. Again, appreciate it.
Yeah,
thanks for what you do.
Always great hanging out with you.
I'll continue following your protocol, and we'll catch up again soon.